everybody, welcome back. We are the two Lush Mamas, Brittany, Keely. We are here on Small Brewery Sunday, and we are here to celebrate the day with Garden Path Fermentation, another local brewery to us. They are out in Skagit Valley, Washington. Nice to meet you. We've got Amber here with us.
Nice to meet you.
And so Amber, can you tell us a little bit about, today's Small Brewery Sunday, and so we wanted to know, it's an event started by the Brewers Association to help celebrate and promote small breweries and the positive impact that they have within their communities. And so what does Small Brewery Sunday mean to you?
Well, first of all, the Brewers Association is kind of the national guild for independent breweries in America. So they're just a really great organization that helps us out a lot in a lot of different ways. But I think Small Brewery Sunday is kind of a way to embrace the fact that in Washington we have over 500 craft breweries that employ local people, they're owned by local people, and they're kind of community centers. We all, it's a place for you to come hang out and interact with what is local and people in your own community. So.
Absolutely.
Which is really kind of the definition of when we look for ingredients and the places we want to support in terms of small businesses. That's what we look for. We want someone that's supporting local and being local because it's great business.
Yeah.
So how did Garden Path Fermentation start?
So my partner and I were actually in Austin, Texas 5 years ago.
This is her favorite. Go on, we'll talk about it.
Okay, your favorite brewery. And we wanted to start our own project, but we wanted to do something where we could source everything from our own backyard. And Texas is an amazing place in a lot of ways, but hops don't grow there. There isn't a lot of there aren't a lot of craft maltsters, a lot of great. It's not a great place to grow grain. So we were looking for a location where we could source everything in our own backyard. And we ended up in Skagit Valley in part because Skagit Valley Malting, which is literally just down the road from us, it's a craft maltster that works exclusively with local farmers that are growing heirloom grains. And that was kind of step one in our process. But we wanted to be in a place with a cooler climate where we could work with the yeast that lives around us and just basically source everything we could from our own backyard. And this is the perfect place to do it.
Yeah, that is. Skagit Valley has an abundance of, the products you can get out here. The hops, I know I grow hops at home. It's so fun. It's so easy to grow them out here, and they're amazing. So, did you want to move on to the...
I actually wanted to ask, since we're doing a holiday-themed month right now, I wanted to ask what your favorite holiday beer is.
My favorite holiday beer? That we make, or
favorite drink?
Anything in general. What would you recommend that anybody can come in here today and buy that they should keep at the holiday hours?
So do you guys want to try this one?
Sure.
Absolutely. This is probably here's two Lush Mamas.
Yeah.
This is a beer called the Strong Fruit Ale. The name is accurate.
I know
it is surprisingly strong, but also bone dry. So the base beer for this was a honey quadruple, and the story is that it was kind of an accidental beer. We had some blackberries and plums that our brewer wanted to use, and we had a tote that said in our brewing system that it was full of table beer, which is a lower ABV beer. So he's like, I'm going to throw all this fruit into this low ABV beer and make something really light and refreshing. It turns out what was in the tote was the opposite of a table beer. It was a quadruple.
Wow.
Our code name for this while it was in process, instead of the Little Horse, which is the name of our table beer, it became Draft Horse.
Yeah. I can appreciate that.
But what I love about this beer is that it's kind of, it's a deceptive 9.9%.
You can smell all the fruits that you mentioned, though.
It's incredibly fruit forward, but it's also bone dry. It doesn't taste like it's as strong as it is. But this is such a great holiday beer because you have this blackberry plum character, but it's also easy to drink, but it's also like curl up by fire.
This is
consolidating a glass.
And when you're drinking your beers, please appreciate how I always like to appreciate how they smell before I drink them, because they honestly, you get so much from how it smells. Like people do that with, you might look at you talk about mead and wine and cider, but your beer, it starts on the nose and then it goes into the palate, and it's just.
And this actually has a really warm, tingly feel to it.
But it's not boozy.
No, not at
It's
all.
It's kind of what
I love it. It does have the Belgium kind of.
And that's a yeast character.
Right.
Does that, you guys do the old brewing yeast fermentation process, like old world brewing?
In a way, it's kind of our own interpretation of old world brewing, but everything we ferment, and we've never purchased yeast. So most breweries will use yeast that they buy from a lab. So if you're making a Hefeweizen, you'll use half yeast, so you get that kind of predictability. You get that banana clove flavor that you expect in that style of beer.
Right.
And if you're brewing a style, then that makes a lot of sense. But since our whole mission is to embrace nature and embrace everything that's around us, we either use airborne yeast, so spontaneous fermentation, or our house yeast culture, which is something that we actually cultivated from things that grow around us, mostly flowers, actually.
Okay. So that was something that, because my husband's a home brewer, and that's something that he's really fascinated about. So he was going, make sure that you ask how they get their native yeast.
It's something anyone can do. It's a time-consuming process. What we did was, that day in April when all of a sudden all the flowers are blooming?
Yes.
Like you just really
know it's spring.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, it's spring here.
So we went out that day and walked around for about an hour just in Burlington and on the trail here and picked one of every flower we saw.
Really?
And then we took them home. We made a really simple batch of wort. Wort is unfermented beer, right? That was pretty heavily hopped. Hops are kind of antimicrobial, so they kind of screen for yeast versus other things that may be in the culture. And then we just threw the flour into mason jars with wort.
Okay.
And our kitchen for a couple months was just full of these mason jars.
Really? It's kind of the idea of, making bakes, like making sourdough starter.
Exactly.
It's making your beer starter.
That would probably be really good sourdough starter to be.
During the whole lockdown, everybody's baking, and you couldn't get yeast. My husband was just make bread with our yeast.
No, absolutely.
I actually bet it is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I actually didn't do it. I
That's-
found a yeast first. So.
Yeah.
We had these for months. Our kitchen was just all mason jars, and some of them were clearly fermenting. Some of them looked really disgusting. And after a few months, we started by smelling. Some of them we could tell were not good,
Not
at all.
Yeah.
Some of them just had mold on them. But there were 4 or 5 that were clearly fermenting and clearly had beer yeast in them.
Okay.
And so of those 4 or 5, we combined the best 3 and then kept the process going. We didn't have a site yet at that point, so we had about a year before we were in this space and ready to start brewing. So we kept propping it up, kept doing gradually larger batches until when we were finally licensed to make beer here, we had a big enough yeast culture to actually do a full-size batch.
That's amazing, and that's part of how you talk about on the website too, that you guys are hyper-local. And when she says hyper-local, she literally means that they're collecting the flowers in Skagit Valley and making their yeast. And you get all of your grain out here too.
Except for some of our hops,
Okay.
all of our ingredients come from within about 20 miles of the brewery. All of our honey comes from concrete, all of our fruit comes from the valley, from local farmers that we know and work with.
It makes it even better because you know who you're getting here.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that's another way that we like to think of community is that we have this community of people that we work with to make products that taste like where they're from.
Right.
So many great farmers here in the area.
Oh my God,
there
It's
is.
wonderful.
Yeah. So, and that kind of, this experimentation style, what we're talking about right now, sort of leads me into some of the other questions that we have where we looked at your beer menu before coming out here, and there's quite a few inspired styles that not a lot of breweries have actually had the confidence to venture out and play with, such as cool ships.
Right.
And then the native yeast fermentations and stuff. Like some of them are kind of just getting to that market, but it's really a fun style. And so, do you have a favorite experimentation style that you guys like?
I mean, I love our spontaneous program. So just to explain what that is, if you don't know, it's probably the oldest way to make beer. So when we're using our house culture, we actually brew our wort next to our chutnut and bring it back here for fermentation.
Okay.
And the last thing you normally do is feed the wort. The last phase is boiling. Right. And if you pitch yeast to boiling wort, you're going to kill your yeast.
Yeah.
So you feed it through what's called a heat exchanger, which just cools it down rapidly to a good temperature for yeast. So if we're using our house culture, we'll feed it through a heat exchanger, bring it into our production area, throw it into one of our giant oak vats, basically, they're called fooders, and then pitch our house culture and let fermentation kind of take over. But before heat exchangers existed, every brewery would have a vessel called a cool ship, which is just a large, flat, usually metal.
Looks like a huge trough.
Exactly, yeah. And like if the weather was better, I'd take it up to our cool ship, which is a repurposed dairy tank, basically. But the point is that it's a vessel where you can cool the wort down pretty rapidly, and then if you so desire, throw it into oak, pitch your yeast, and let fermentation start. But there's also a tradition of using that for yeast inoculation. So there's yeast in the air everywhere, all around you, all the time. And if you fill a large flat vessel with boiling wort, steam is going to rise, it's going to trap whatever's in the air, and that's going to inoculate the beer completely naturally, right, spontaneously. So if you've ever had a traditional lambic, that's the process.
Right. Okay.
And we'll never make lambic. Lambic is a protected term, kind of like Chimney.
Okay.
It's geographical, and we're not in Belgium, and we have so much respect for the Belgian breweries that have been doing this for hundreds of years that we'll never use that term.
Right.
But we love the process.
Right.
And the cool thing about being here too is we have the perfect climate for it. We want a winter night between about 30 and 45 degrees. That's going to be the best for Yeast Inoculation. Well, I mean, 10 months of the year here.
Really?
I was just thinking.
Majority of our climate is perfect for it.
Exactly. And in Belgium, the season keeps getting shorter every year because you freeze faster, it's hot faster.
Right. Okay.
But for us, it's like we'll start using the cool ship when the fruit flies go away.
Okay.
And we'll stop when they come back.
Okay.
So we have basically 8 months of the year where we can make beer with air use. It's a slow process. It takes time to actually turn into something really beautiful, just because you will have beer yeast in there, you'll have a lot of other things it needs to work through. So this is a program we started right when we opened in 2018, but we only released our first spontaneous beer this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I'm excited that we were here to be able to try some of this. My husband actually came across you guys not long after you opened, and we've been meaning to come out here and just spend some time going through and trying everything. Because you're not only
Why? One of the big reasons.
that we want to come out.
Well, tell her one of the big reasons that your husband found this place for you.
Because I sent him flying.
Because like your favorite brewery.
He found, so originally, and that was what Keely was hinting at earlier, was that you're from Texas, in Austin, Texas, and you were affiliated with what is considered one of the best breweries in Texas, and that is Jester King Brewery. And one of their reasons that they're my favorite was a lot of the experimental styles. But the sad thing is that they cannot legally ship their beer to private buyers out of Texas. So you can't legally go online and purchase beer to order from them. But as a business owner, that you can order it to sell. And so this is probably, after looking, I think you're probably the only place in Washington, because previously there's Fair Isle has it, but that's about it.
Yes, the Masonry in Seattle has some bottles, but basically Jester King ships directly to us. Washington is kind of a cool state where state producers can ship directly to retailers.
Yes, Washington and Oregon are some of the few states where that they can legally do that. And then the other cool thing was that they actually started with Jester King when Jester King started. And so a lot of that kind of style, you brought it here, and are able to use the abundance of products that Skagit Valley has, which to me, just I'm so passionate about all of the natural processes, the spontaneous fermentation. I just love that someone is now local to us that's trying to branch out, because beer doesn't need to just be, you know, lager, IPA, you know, stuff. It's like,
or alternatively, it doesn't
right.
need to be like a cotton candy slushy beer.
right.
Right.
It's yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that there's a lot of
These kinds of flavors that
yeah,
we
well,
brought out.
there's a lot of unnatural flavors that are being put into it now to try and reach a broader market. But what you don't understand is that it can get so much more fun when you're looking at some of the older world styles that you've got, when you talked about like the quadruple and your cool ship. It's just really amazing,
And
the
they help us to
history.
get back to the more natural.
Oh, there's
process.
probiotics.
Yes,
Yes.
it's so much more better for you.
So you kindly refilled our glasses.
Yes.
What do we have here?
So it's that one. It's that one. It's a beer called the Curious Mixed Methods.
I don't know if everybody can see. The labels are just beautiful. I mean, I wish they showed up more, but.
So this is one of the fun kind of experimental things we do. It's traditional but non-traditional. We've done multiple batches of this, all of which incorporate some type of spontaneous fermentation and some type of our native yeast. So in Belgium, that would kind of be unheard of.
Right.
You know, if you're doing spontaneous fermentation, you're doing that. But this is a series that we love to do, just to play around with the definitions of what fermentation can be. So one of the versions was from our very first spontaneous batch, where we filled a barrel that we had just emptied, and it still had our house culture in it, so it was spontaneous but not. This one is just a straight up blend. This is the 4th edition. So it's spontaneously fermented beer and just
Is there honey in this?
all of our beers are finished with honey. They're conditioned with honey. So what that means, like, we naturally condition all of our beers. We don't force carbonate them. The carbonation comes from a final fermentation in the package.
Interesting.
And honey is a local sugar source.
Right.
Most breweries that do that use dextrose, and there's not a dextrose farm.
I was just noticing that it's really clear too. So how do you get that clarity on your beer? Are you cold crashing, or how does the
Time.
just time? It just purifies out.
We don't filter.
You don't filter.
But this has undergone multiple fermentations. So there's primary fermentation, like in the big foeder, and then some of it was barrel aged, so it underwent kind of secondary fermentation there, and then the final fermentation of the package.
Okay.
So
You said this was the fourth
edition.
Did you find that each bottle is very different?
every edition of our beer
That makes it really fun
Yeah.
then.
You can't replicate anything exactly, just based on the way we make things. When you're aging, you know, it's going to be different every time. So you know, it's all seasonal. So every time we release a new edition of the beer, it's kind of a riff on what we've done before, but it's
So
that.
different,
Yeah.
And I suppose like fruits like that too. You have yours with certain fruits are a little sweeter than others based on the weather.
Exactly. It's like wine. Every vintage of wine is a little different. We like to think of it as the difference between a recording and live performance. Like you can listen to your favorite album over and over, and it's going to be
When recording, you're gonna have mistakes.
It's a little different.
The dump beer. If you ever meet a brewer that says they've never dumped beer, they're either leaving you at it or they're lying to you.
Show
That's
your
our shirt. We're now wearing our 2 Lush Mamas shirts, and you can't see it on the back, but as our saying is, life's too short to drink bad wine, or in this case, bad beer. Which is why we came here. Which is why we came here, to find the best beer. This is fantastic. And this
actually,
I can
think
taste
would
a
be-
little bit of the honey on the end. Like, it's very slight.
I'm loving this.
Yeah.
And it almost reminds me of like sparkling, like apple juice.
I can kind of see that.
Yeah, like a sparkling cider, you know.
Yeah, I like it because it's delicate, but it's complicated.
It's definitely,
not at all.
it's a delicate beer. It's not going to be like a punch in the face, but you can tell all of the
body texture.
It's the nuances of the yeast and the,
It's gonna be a foundation.
yes.
Yeah, I love it.
That's absolutely fantastic.
Next one.
Oh, we're going to do another holiday question, because it is that time of the year, and we're all about the holiday cheer.
Y'all are
So
so
we are. Do you have a favorite holiday tradition?
So this is kind of a weird personal one, but
That's what we're looking for.
so Frosty the Snowman.
Yes.
For some reason, I have a very deep personal It's bad. Like, if you rewatch it as an adult, it is poorly made.
As a mom watching it, I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
There's like one person who did the voices of all the children.
Right.
It's really bad animation, but there's something about when Frosty melts that just like stabs me in the heart. And so it's like kind of an annual tradition. Like I send Ron away, and I just like watch Frosty let him melt and like cry like a baby. It's like,
you did a private day with Frosty.
exactly. It's just like this cathartic thing, and I get all of my shit out.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I love it.
Favorite holiday movie?
Or holiday movies? She's okay. To be fair, the one we watch on Christmas Eve every year is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, but it's not Christmas yet until I've watched Die Hard.
Totally a Christmas.
I'm sorry.
I am.
The debate, the controversy is still out. I made Keely watch it with me one year, and she was shocked.
So I guess I was very sheltered. Like I wasn't allowed to watch anything about PG movies until I was G movies, really, until I was,
I'm gonna watch a
13.
Christmas movie, and she's like, "What are they doing?"
She's like, this is not a Christmas movie. This is violent.
It's not Christmas until Hans Gruber falls from the Nakatomi Plaza. Oh my god.
I mean, to be fair, like Santa Claus's origin story is hella violent.
It is.
Yeah.
Like one of his first miracles. This is a fun thing that
I love it. Like,
so he was traveling through an area that was like hit by famine. Went to a pub, ordered a beer, and they're like, "Hey, you want some meat?" He's like, "You have meat? Sure. Like, I'm hungry. We're all hungry." And as he was eating, he's like, "This is a little strange. Like, what's going on here?" So he went to the back, and there was a barrel full of dead children, which was the meat. So he
you're laughing.
brought them back from the dead. Yeah, so that's why he's using children and also beer. Just FYI.
There you go. That explains why we're here. We're being festive.
So, it's not quite Hans Gruber, but
No, but you know what? I think it's on the same path there.
yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah.
So what else? So we've got among the beers that you've got laid out here, it's worth noting that they don't just do beer. They also make wine, and you make cider.
And cider and meat.
And meat, yeah. So they've actually got quite a selection right now. Yeah, you can see the wall behind us. There's products that they both sell and that they've made. The wine that we noticed that you had right now was Adeline Angevine.
And we literally have 2 bottles of that left.
We'll take them.
Just kidding, guys. You can't come by it anymore.
Sorry.
That's another wine. And that's that wine.
Okay, so what is this?
This is our 2019 wine. Since we do source everything locally, grapes are kind of hard to come by in this region.
Yeah.
It's not a great region for wine grapes, so we can usually make one wine a year. Last year we didn't get any this harvest. This was 2020. Let's just say it was 2020.
It was
Yeah.
display here.
Yeah.
I feel like it's fair though.
Yeah.
So this is our 2019 wine, which is actually a co-fermentation of Pinot Noir and Pinot Gris grapes from Mount Baker Vineyards.
Oh, okay.
And so it's a really interesting one because it's not a white or a red or a rosé. It looks like an orange wine, but it's not.
Well, it does look like an orange wine.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
not really a skin contact white.
So is it blush? Blush by that definition then? Or
No, it kind of defies the category.
Okay.
It's a white and
so it doesn't.
right?
It looks like it's a blend. It's Pinot Noir and Pinot Gris.
And they co-ferment, so it's not a blend.
Oh, they fermented. Oh, okay.
So we hand harvested these grapes in 2019 and brought them back here, put them in some toast, covered them overnight with a little bit of gas, and basically let the natural yeast take over. So this is a minimal intervention wine. We have intervened as little as possible in it. And again, it presents a little bit like an orange wine. You get a little bit of that character, that kind of, I would say natural fermentation character. But I'm really happy with this. I really like how it turned out because it's unlike any other wine I've done.
I love this. This child looking at it through, it's like,
It's beautiful.
it's so clean and crisp.
And the color, I think that
And the color is really beautiful. No, it's beautiful. It's got such like Christmas to it. It's got really nice kind of like mild acidity. It's got a nice round mouth. It's got a little chewiness to it. Yeah.
And that's actually my favorite thing in a wine, is I like have a little bit of
A little texture.
Yeah, like
The tannins are just very.
it's beautiful. I think really good.
No, I'm saying that they're beautiful. They're not heavy at all.
They're there, but it
Yeah.
is so, I mean,
It's
the
so
bread
well
was on
balanced
right,
that you don't, it doesn't hit you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Right.
love that.
No, that's beautiful. So that
Phenomenal job.
so Madeline and Divine, we already covered that that's going to be gone today. If we
It's a
can.
cool grape though.
But actually it's one of the grape styles that grows really well up here. In addition to like the Sigaribe we've talked about a lot, since Lush Mamas, and then the Pinot Noir grapes do grow well up in the Pacific Northwest as well. So that's what this is blended from: is the Pinot Noir grapes and the Pinot Gris. So sorry, they're co-fermented. My apologies, they're co-fermented together.
I think they were blended and then we pressed them.
Right.
That makes sense.
It's still valid. No, but like wait, no. But this is definitely something we're trying. So there's something here for everybody to really find
And I think
enjoy.
this is actually a fun one for if you have husbands that aren't big wine fans. I think this is a great wine to bring because it kind of brings a little bit of like almost like a beer aspect to it in kind of the, I don't know if it's the, I don't want to say sparkly, but there's just like maybe it's the fermentation I'm getting, but there's just a little bit of a beer aspect.
Well, I think
to
it's
it.
just the finish, the way that it finishes on your palate.
It's not super tannic.
Yeah,
Right.
like I feel like you can
It
get
doesn't. You're not going to get those like some wines. You get a lot of the acidity, tanniny kind of punch, and it's not like that. This is more clean and crisp finish.
I know one's like if it is not a bold bodied red that punches you in the face, I'm not gonna drink any wine at all.
These nice little tea nuance.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. So that's another great one that we've got. I'm going to break up some more holiday questions. I'm gonna really put Amber to the test now.
Oh,
No, I'm gonna really put her through the ringer now. Can you name all of Santa's reindeer?
That's right. It says Rudolph count?
Yes,
I
sure.
think he does.
He counts.
Okay, so
Like-
we'll start with Rudolph.
Okay.
Yeah, Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner,
Nailed it. She didn't even hesitate.
you Christmas cheer.
She didn't even hesitate. You win.
That was great.
Wow, that was impressive. I didn't hesitate when I was doing
We
it.
had to have
Like,
Jackson
I had
help you.
Jackson help me, my son.
She cheated.
He did help me.
She's like, wait, oh yeah, and then
That's one of those things though that like has been in the back of my head since I was a baby child and has not been displaced with new information. So this is the one time it's been useful. So thank you for that.
There you go.
you won 100%. And Brittany Amster has a field prize, right?
You can get my necklace.
No.
I put Brittany on the spot. It's okay. She's like, I can bring prizes.
We'll get to that. So, okay, this is fantastic. And then,
So one of the other questions I had is in terms of if you had to pick kind of like a holiday gift box that you were to do for your family, what would be the 4 or 5 beverages you'd pick in there? I know you mentioned that one.
I would definitely do this one. Probably the wine. One of our we have some really cool ciders too that are fantastic with food. They're all locally grown, naturally fermented, and the one that I would probably suggest is our fruit punch cider, which is the base cider comes from actually the WSU orchard.
Okay.
WSU has a teaching orchard in Mount Vernon, and the trees that they're not doing research on, we actually take care of them in exchange for our first access to the fruit. So this is a cider that we then re-fermented with like all the fruit. I can't even tell you all the fruit that's in there. It's like strawberries, blackberries, peaches, like cherries, and it's in a similar family to this, but so fruit forward, super dry. It looks like fruit punch, which is why we call it that, but probably not great for children. Right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's it. Probably not live, I shouldn't say, but I'm gonna say, you know, it's not the kind of thing that it looks like
amazing. And I don't want to cut us too short if you've got anything else that you wanted to talk about here, or got to come on down and see it.
The guest products.
Oh, yes. Are these, so these are all guest products
These
here?
are all guest products. So in addition to carrying your own stuff, we have this bottle shop where we carry things that you probably cannot find anywhere else in the state of Washington.
No, I'm mentioning already that I found some amazing products here.
Oh my goodness, look at these.
You want to try that one?
This is, yes. We need to post some shit. So this is, that's our Christmas one now.
I can't
It's
say
called
that.
Jesus.
Okay. I'm
Jesus
really
is
glad
like-
you're able to say
It
that.
has a picture of kind of a stone Jesus in a
Yeah.
hat.
He almost looked like a crazy kind of gnarly elf.
Actually, can I say that?
And yeah, you see it. And this is
I love it.
Belgian Christmas Ale, bourbon barrel aged.
Oh, I'm
You're
excited.
speaking to my heart right now.
It's from a brewery called Struisa in kind of a remote area of Belgium. The brewery is actually also an ostrich farm for some reason.
An ostrich farm.
I've been there. They're ostriches.
They make
I don't
great
like
burgers.
ostriches.
They make great burgers.
Yeah, I
They
feel
do.
no
Oh,
feelings
yeah.
about eating ostriches.
Really? Oh yeah.
Never
I'm gonna put this front and center. So this is a guest beer that we're gonna try, and this is another Christmas one.
So it's a winter warmer that's aged in bourbon barrels. And the name is Chases, which is not actually how you say Jesus.
No,
in Flemish.
it was TJ, right? Like the trying
So it's basically
determine
the
a
Flemish
solid.
interpretation of like saying Jesus Christ.
Okay.
Because it's a strong
Right.
beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is. What is the percentage on?
Like
10%.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, but this is decent stuff. I feel like it's very warm.
This is very malty.
Mm-hmm.
It's
And that's
very
a,
malty.
That's a winter warmer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so there's really, there's like no malt flavor to this. It's the all malts, which is a really kind of European perspective coming on beers, but they do a lot more. I see a lot more of like the malted beers from over the water, and we like to do ours more hoppy, but
But
Very
traditionally,
exciting.
winter beers are going to be a lot more malt forward because
Yeah.
they're brewed for a season when hops aren't necessarily special. There are hops in it, but the malts and
It's
the
really more
barrel and the bourbon are going to take over on this one.
and these
I love it.
take some time to make, which are beers
Absolutely,
too. Yeah, they're a process.
So they're usually brewed well before they are ready to consume. Yeah.
So they're, yeah. Because we talked about, I know when I was talking to you about this, about whether or not you guys were looking into doing any winter beers, and you're saying it's like a process. So that would be a down the line process.
Exactly.
Where, yeah, that's
Yeah.
not something that you can just roll right out.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for us because people are like, why don't you do a pumpkin beer? We grow pumpkins here. It's like, well, we can do a pumpkin beer, but then you release it in June, and then no one would want that.
Oh,
So,
that's-
yeah.
makes sense. Yeah, no, that
We actually haven't released our fresh hop here yet. Not this year.
Oh, okay. That makes well, that makes sense. So that's going to be ready though for next year. And
It'll be ready probably February, March.
Okay.
So we do an aged fresh hop here because
Ooh.
that's kind of how we work, right? And for us, the fresh hops actually go in the cool shed. Okay. So it's not 100% spontaneous beer, but there is a cool shed aspect to it.
okay. So, what do you have coming down the line right now that's going to be releasing maybe over the next couple months that people can look forward to coming in?
The one thing that we are so excited about is our honey triple.
Honey triple.
Which we're just waiting on labels, so probably January, I'm guessing.
Okay.
So it is possibly the strongest beer we've ever made. Really, yeah.
What are you looking at right now on the ABV?
It's like 11 and a half, something like
11
that.
and a half.
But it was made with burnt clover honey.
Wow.
So our honey guy kind of overheated the honey a little bit when he was
You just
processing it.
yeah, you steer into the curve where it's now
Yes.
burnt clover honey.
And it's actually super tasty. So this beer, like all of our beers, is bone dry. There's no residual sugar, and it just is this caramelized honey character.
I'm excited.
So it tastes sweet, but it's not sweet. And it's, like I said, it's very deceptive on the ABV. It's like a temperature beer, but it's so delicious. So I'm really excited about that.
That's, yeah, it looks amazing.
I'm so excited for Quadruple. I'm like, I feel like I'm coming down to January right now. I'm like, hurry up, January.
Yeah, no, this place, it's amazing for coming and having, you can do yourself a tasting, there's wine, cider, beer.
It's gonna be a fun little
and then
date
there's, right, and then there's the shop of all the beer selection behind us where there's
Like all of your
definitely-
holiday shopping.
Yes.
Covered here.
One-stop shop, plus you can have a drink yourself.
Yeah, anybody who has that, special beer lover, wine lover, cider lover in their
Or
life.
someone you just don't know what to get because they have everything. I don't have. all
I've
beer.
got my box, like, beers before, numerous times. It's a perfect gift.
And we actually do curated holiday packs. If that's,
You do?
Yes. They will be live on our web shop this afternoon, actually.
Okay, and let's plug your website, so what's
So,
the
Garden
website?
Path WA.
Okay.
That's our website, our Instagram, our Facebook. If you want to find us, that's where to find us.
Okay,
Yeah.
and they're located out near the Higgins Airport Road in Skagit Valley.
You can get your husband flight hours or
Yeah.
your wife's flight hours, and then you can hop over here and taste while they fly.
Yeah,
That's what we did.
They're directly across the road. That's what we did. They're directly across the road, and this is a really, I know that you guys, it's a newer place, location that you've opened up, but it looks amazing. I mean, you've put a lot of work into it. This place is set up really, really beautifully. And I can see that you've got, on the back side of it too, you've got your casks that are
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of funny, you can kind of glimpse at the little production area.
There's a
Big
lot of
production
it back
area.
there. It's very exciting.
It is. It's very, so, I mean, this is a great location, and then in the summertime, I can see that you've got your outdoor area. It's, come on down, it's Small Brewery Sunday, so this is the day that we need to support our local small brewers and what they're doing for our community and what they're doing to keep your glasses full. I mean, let's just be honest.
And actually, on that note, let's do a splash for you.
Yeah.
And I want to say thank
I
you
drank.
and cheers.
Hey, thank you guys for hanging out today. This is fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Really
hosting
enjoyed
us.
Cheers.
Cheers. I'm gonna come up and disconnect.
We're almost. This is
So I can
our
finish
live
my glass
versus
private.
the recording.
Bye, guys.